Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming back. Tonight, comic books, movies. What the heck has gone wrong with the whole industry? Where did it all fall apart? We'll figure out if we'll ever get back with tonight's special guest, the master of the Swag King.
Master. Oh, God. The guy with 3 wives. The guy with 5 kids by 3 different wives. That's the dream now, apparently. Imagine the life you must have if you have 1 wife. Now you have 3, and then you have like 3 extra kids. Like, how about no? How about I don't want to deal with that?
Yeah, I don't know. 3 wives just sounds like, every day you got to hear it 3 times. Take out the garbage. Take out the garbage. Take out the garbage. No, one's good. One's good.
Oh, what's been going on, man? How's the channel?
It's going slow. Sort of had to take some time off when I for doing my campaign for Empire: The Undying Sun, but that's over. So I am back, and I finally had time to check out some movies, including this guy, Captain America: Brave New World. Now, word on the street is that it was going to be terrible, just awful. But I know you saw it. What did you think of it?
It's really interesting. So it's definitely a movie of all time. Like a director directed, actors acted. I think there was action, and then it ended, and then there was a post-credit scene, and then I left. Like, it's weird because people have said they I think the expectations were so low for it that everyone went like, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. And
yeah.
I think that resulted in their brains having some whiplash going. So since it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, it was actually pretty good. And I was like, I didn't hate myself after I watched this. So that was, I guess, a decent feeling. But I also watched it and went, it reminded me of when I watched Shang-Chi. So I didn't hate watching Shang-Chi, but I also didn't feel like, oh, well, what does this do? I don't know how I'm supposed to feel after watching Shang-Chi. This is, for me, just a very middle of the pack MCU movie, because I think people have been calling it the worst, and it's like, no, there's nothing worse than Eternals or Love and Thunder or Iron Man 3 or Thor Dark. I could easily name like 10 MCU movies that are easily worse than this, and by far. In fact, also because the expectations on those were much more bigger than the expectations on this. The expectations on this were pretty much nothing. Literally just absolutely nothing. They were like, hopefully it's not a piece of shit. That's not an expectation. That's just like, hey, hope this maybe might come out good. Like, so that's kind of where I was at with it. It's an interesting movie to talk about because either for a lot of people it's super mediocre, so it's just more of the same MCU for people, or it's something that isn't as bad as we thought. So I don't know where that is for a lot of people, honestly, at this point,
Yeah. I thought it was like perfectly down the middle, where it wasn't bad, but yet it wasn't really good. The only thing for me, there's a glimmer of hope, just in the sense that so many movies since Infinity, or not Infinity Wars, the Endgame. Ever since that, most of the movies have just sucked. They couldn't figure out what to do with Black Widow. That was just like the first 20 minutes were great, and then the rest stunk. The Spider-Man movies were okay, but like you said, Eternals. I was not a fan of Shang-Chi. Pretty much everything else is. Oh, Ant-Man 3 was awful.
Actually, both Ant-Man sequels are bad. Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man the Wasp, which came out, I think, after Doctor Strange. That was awful. Like, it's really crazy. I think one of the biggest lies that people have sold themselves because their brains just don't work properly, or, well, since people's lives are so hectic and crazy that they just forget every narrative. So they essentially just go off of a narrative that already existed. It's very much something that I've realized with people. They'll just say something and then they're not even thinking about it. They're just on like repeat saying it. Like the saying that goes to the MCU that I've seen recently, it's been like ever since I've been on Twitter for the last good God knows how long, 8 years, is that every single movie in phases 1 through 3 were good. Everything was rainbows and sunshines in the first 3 phases, and that's just not true.
Nope.
Just objectively not true. Literally, in phase 2, the first beginning movies are Iron Man 3, and that sucks donkey ass. Thor the Dark World, which sucks egregious donkey ass. And then you have Winter Soldier, you have the first Guardians movie, and you have Ant-Man. So those three, I think, movies saved the first,
Yeah.
the second phase. But phase 2 also ends with Age of Ultron, which was a sequel to a Avengers movie that pretty much when the Avengers came out, essentially put the MCU on the map. I mean, Iron Man started Avengers when it came out, that really, really solidified the MCU as, hey, we finally got it together. Age of Ultron was also itself incredibly mid. It was a very average, mediocre super movie. And it's just so weird when people say things like, well, it was so much better back in phases 1 through 3. And it's like phase 3 has Captain Marvel part of it. Phase 3 has the Ragnarok part of it. The Ragnarok is funny, but I wouldn't call that a good MCU movie. You know?
Yeah, I never liked Ragnarok, but I know a lot of people love it. It's very polarizing.
Just outside of the jokes. Like there's some moments in there that are actually very good. But I think what people are confusing is that some of the really bad, I think it breaks down like this. I think people forget that the really good, the really bad MCU movies, and if I guess you say back in the day, the ones that are back in the day had very good attributes to them, even though they were not good. The ones that are bad now are bad for a different reason. So like Iron Man 3, I think is terrible, but RDJ's performance makes up for at least it not being an absolute like 1 out of 10. You know what I mean? So for the Dark World, Thor and Loki's relationship is very fun to watch.
Yeah.
Now, if you compare and contrast that with MCU movies now, well, you get Shang-Chi. Just like what's there to really like about that guy? Then you get a movie. Let's see. Let's go with fucking hell. Yeah. Well, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Like Paul Rudd is good, but the daughter actress that they replaced like 50,000 times, they landed on Catherine Newton. Not the same. Like I could understand what people mean by that. At least when you got a bad MCU movie, at least like RDJ was still good. At least Chris Hemsworth was still good. At least there was something fun there about it. It was a bad movie, but at least it was fun. There was something energetic about it. Now, if they're just bad, they're just completely awful in every way. Also, the MCU suffers from, I guess you could say, not having a face of the franchise. RDJ and Chris Evans were the faces of the MCU. They were the main two heroes of it. You can say that MCU Infinity War Saga was RDJ's arc. You can say it's Chris Evans' arc. Either one doesn't matter. For a lot of people, those are the main two Avengers that everyone know and loved. In this last few phases we've had, there's been literally nothing. Honestly, there's no Michael Jordan. There's no Kobe Bryant. There's no face of the MCU. There's just nothing. So
yeah, I think they were really trying to make Anthony Mackie sort of the new face, but they did him dirty in the Winter Soldier and Falcon and Winter Soldier. That which I did kind of like in this Captain America movie. That it seems like they're trying to do some repair work from all the damage that happened to that, and they're trying to fix what I think a lot of people's big issues with that series were. So that was kind of nice to see. I just don't know if it's too little, too late. But they gave him reasons. I still think it's kind of weird. Everybody and their brother has a super serum soldier now, except for him, but at least they finally gave him equipment that could potentially make him fight, like superhero. He's almost got like an Iron Man light type suit with his wings. So at least it kind of makes a little sense now.
Also in the movie, he gets rid of his better looking suit for that uglier, darker blue one. You know what's crazy?
Yes.
That suit that he has is actually pretty comic book accurate. It's probably one of the most accurate suits we've ever made, ever, for looking at how accurate suits are. He gets rid of the better looking suit for the worst one. And I like that first one because it's the Star Spangled Banner on it. It looks very Americanized. He got rid of it for no reason. Like most of the time in superhero movies, a character discards their original suit for a better one for various upgrades to it. The common one is the Batman neck turn that everyone always goes right. So it makes sense why you would do it. This movie, he just swaps out the better looking suit for the other one, and I really don't know why. It just that's a problem when you're just doing mindless shit for no reason. Also, a big problem with this movie is that it feels like a discarded Hulk movie script that they couldn't do for a Hulk movie, so they just have Captain America here. And then so it doesn't have Captain America. It has Sam Wilson Captain America. Then it's a Hulk movie without the Hulk. So now, so it's just essentially a superhero movie without the proper characters to be in the superhero movie. Such a weird movie it has, and then it tries to be a political thriller. So the first half, I was like, okay, if this is kind of where it's going to go, this might actually be a secret banger right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went from a setup of a political thriller to an action adventure to now I must fight the guy at the end. It was such a jumbled plot. I actually kind of want to see what movie they had before, because I feel like potentially the movie they had before this was actually better, because this one, the plot, it's not like even it's really just a horrible plot. It's more like there's no time to get to each section of the plot. It goes from literally setting
like
up,
checking off boxes,
Yeah, but in a weird way. It starts off like weirdly like Winter Soldier in such a ghetto way, because like you have Giancarlo's character acting like Bucky. He gets him in the car and everything, and the hero escapes, even though you couldn't have never did that. Come on, Nick Fury in Winter Soldier used that like fucking a little thing he had to blow his truck to escape. In this movie, how in the world did Anthony Mackie get out of that truck in time when that bomb went off? There's just it's not possible. They didn't even show you how he got it. He's okay, because he says plot armor. Yeah, black guy lives, right? And then it goes from that to like Japan being at war with America, and it's like, okay, that would obviously not happen. Then they introduced, because people said they liked it for a plot reason about the Celestial Island. So I didn't like that for one reason.
Yeah.
It adds nothing to the plot. It really does. It's literally, the Celestial Island has adamantium. And what does that offer this plot? It offers nothing. It's literally just a plot device to get the plot somewhere, but it never has any actual like tangible features to it. It's one of those like, oh, cool, we had a use for this Celestial Island that people have been bitching about for the last 4 years. Oh, we can just throw it in this movie because no one's going to care. It's like, it's horrible. Adamantium, which is Wolverine's thing, has been introduced in this movie, and it's nothing here,
Well, to me, this movie is kind of what I call a setup movie, where like nothing particularly interesting happens in this movie, but it puts pieces into place for probably the next Avengers movie. So like in the next Avengers movie, you're going to need to know what adamantium is, and you're going to need to know that Sam Wilson has finally become Captain America, and I don't know that the Red Hulk is going to show up or anything. But to me, that's kind of what this feels like. Like, you're right. It's like they had maybe 2 or 3 different movies, and they're just like dusting it off and like, okay, how can we put this all together like some horrible Voltron gone wrong? It was okay, but there were quite a few issues like that, and I kind of feel bad for Anthony Mackie.
Like so it's the Red Hulk stuff that they could have did better too. So I know people said they liked the in fight scene, which was still kind of like, I knew it was gonna end like he's gonna obviously talk to him to make sure he's not a villain anymore. It's literally just how that works for every superhero movie known to man. Like when they're in the end of the second half, when they're battling Japan, this is the problem with the MCU sometimes, is that they don't know how to set up meaningful stakes. It's much more interesting to a viewer that he's going to transform into the Red Hulk, but if he transforms into the Red Hulk on a submarine with a bunch of people, that causes fear in the audience, and that causes fear on the actual plot of the movie. Because a lot of people have been making these comparisons. I don't think none of them really work unless you utilize the very good examples, which are the first Avengers movie. Remember when Black Widow was alone, when Hulk transformed? Pretty scary for her. It's a small girl. She knows the big guy's coming out. He's like chasing her, and then he's scaring her, and then Hulk comes out and saves her. That's how you create meaningful tension with a character like that. They could have did it in the second half when he's about to transform, when the villain's convincing him, oh, you could just destroy this fucking boat in one hit. Yeah, he should have transformed right then and there. Would have added much more weight to the plot right there, but they didn't. And then now they just wanted to show a white guy raging out at the White House talking about unity. Pretty sure it's no, messaging they were trying to provide there. It's crazy how he's supposed to be based off Trump, but they had like vote blue on there. It's like, what are you talking about, man? What are we doing here?
Well, the other thing was, do you think that Harrison Ford worked in this movie?
I actually liked him. I thought he was actually the most layered part of the movie. It felt like the character, if you were going to recast him, that's probably the only place he would go, honestly. But then the only underutilization point for me of the character would be like, how did he get to this mindset though? This was a person that basically broke apart the Avengers and then told Sam Wilson that you need to bring them back together. Keep in mind, this is just a recasted character. This is the same guy. We haven't seen this guy, I guess, since like the Black Widow movie or I guess Endgame, if you want to use that as a timeline. How did this, where in this guy's mind did he go, well, I want the Avengers back? This guy's literally the one that got rid of them. They never actually go into why he came to that mindset. It's just, oh, that's just his mindset now because he's mad. He's like angry or sad that his daughter has been mad at him for sicking that army on Hulk back in 2008 movie. It's crazy. The kids born nowadays probably haven't even watched that. They didn't even know that probably exists in the universe. They're factoring in, they're 35 movies deep at this point. This is the 35th one. I've been here since the very beginning. It's been hell of a ride, let's just say. Now we're at a point where Sam Wilson's like, well, I don't know if I can do this much longer. Well, your days are numbered there with this box office number coming up. How do you got to worry about that, man?
Yeah, and I think it was kind of missed opportunities too, because like how does this, one of the things that made the first 3 phases so popular, just like you were talking about, some of those movies were really kind of stinkers, but you stuck through it because you could see, after we got out of phase 1, you could see what was going on with the Infinity Stones, and you didn't know exactly what was going to happen if you hadn't read the comics, but you knew something big was coming. But like, I just read that we were in phase 6. Like, I didn't even realize that. I thought we were still in phase 4 because like nothing's happened. So what are they setting up for?
Phase 4 ended with Wakanda Forever. Phase 5, when did phase 5
end?
I
forgot about Wakanda Forever.
Good Lord. Oof. I didn't watch that. I didn't watch that or the Marvels or Guardians 3. Those are the only movies I haven't seen. I've seen pretty much everything else.
I watched it on a plane. It was not great. Eternals, I made about 5 minutes, say maybe 10 minutes in, and I was like, no, this just isn't worth the pain. But we do have a question.
Thursday night.
We do have a question from Michael Dale. What's each of your favorite MCU movies and why?
For me, I don't think my list has ever really changed since I've made it. So this is the best to me. The first 5 is first Iron Man movie, Avengers, Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Guardians.
Nice.
Those are my favorite 5 movies.
I think my top has got to be Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's great because it turns the character of Cap on his head. He thinks he's still fighting for the same stuff he was in the 40s, but he's got to realize the world has changed and he's got to figure out, do I stay like the same company man or do I switch? And then in some ways too, it wasn't not like he was street level, but there was a lot of explosions and stuff, but it wasn't like they were going to space and killing a bunch of aliens and stuff like that. It was all more or less relatable to like real world stuff that was going on, And I think it was one of the last few movies before James Gunn's movie, and everything became kind of the same. Like the whole first phase, whether you liked it or not, each movie had its own distinct flavor. Like Iron Man was very much like a technological Marvel superhero movie. Captain America First Avenger was like an ode to World War II movies. You had Thor 1, which was like almost Shakespearean in a lot of ways. Even going into like Ant-Man 1 was a heist movie. So there was, even though they're all the superhero genre, there was like all these different aspects that could attract other people in. But after Guardians, like they just started doing this formula where it's like action scene jokes, more action, questionably timed jokes, and they're all like very similar. Like that became the Marvel formula. Like, even when you get to Doctor Strange, it's like that.
Doctor Strange was also cool because it had the magical, mystical element to it. That was a really cool thing about it. I think that's been that movie and Ant-Man, I think are their most underrated movies. That first Ant-Man movie actually a solid banger. I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed it when I first watched it. I think Doctor Strange is another one of those solid, underrated movies that no one really gives a lot of credit to. I think it was also pretty solid. I think. Oh, I was watching Nostalgia Critic. I was watching his review popped up like last night in my recommended feed, and I hadn't watched it. So I watched it. He brought up a really good point about why this version of Cap just can't even work logically with not even just the fact that it's a race swap, which didn't even work in the freaking comic books. The reason why people like Steve was because Steve came from a time period being in the army. It was kind of like a fish out of water, seeing that world politics versus this world politics.
Yeah.
Well, this Captain America isn't like that. A lot of the main reasons why the first group works is because you had fish out of waters and different periods and points in times with conflicting world viewpoints. Like Thor comes from a world where he just battles demons and gods, and it's kind of just what he does. He's just a crazy battle warrior. Iron Man comes from a world of, hey, I'm really rich. I've kind of caused a lot of problems. Now it's time for me to fix them. Steve is like, well, I lost a girl because I had to sacrifice everything for my country so it could be safe. And now I'm just thrust into this world where I've lost everything, but I'm still alive. How do I adjust? Just so many more different layers of the characters that were there back in the day. So many more reasons why you wanted to see them together. And when they all came together, it was great. Even in the Age of Ultron, which is not that really great of a movie, but the chemistry is still there. You can still see how it all could come together. But in this time period, none of these characters have any of those quality attributes at all that can bring them together. Because a big point about superheroes is you have all these different conflicting world viewpoints and their own separate stuff. And when they come together, it's like, oh, okay, that's why people like Batman and Superman teaming up, or Green Arrow, Green Lantern, or Spider-Man and many other heroes have that chemistry. Spider-Man and Daredevil have it, obviously, a lot. They should have a lot in common by how their lives have gone. I think that's probably a main reason why. It's just the fact that these characters don't have what the other ones had that made them interesting. They're just kind of like, oh, these are just kind of like really ghetto versions of the ones we had before. And it's like, that doesn't work. They even try to do it in the Marvels with freaking Kamala Khan sitting in a chair like Nick Fury did. Like, I knew it was for a joke, but like even the jokes they used to do were better. And those were like memes themselves, Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
MC, what are you doing?
I mean, I think that's really what Falcon and the Winter Soldier needed to be. It needed to be a series where you have Sam Wilson. He's struggling with, okay, well, I'm not Steve Rogers, and not only do I not have the super soldier serum, I'm also not. Steve was the face, right? I'm also not that big. So it should have been a whole series about how does a normal guy become a superhero. And Bucky, it shouldn't have been like a buddy cop movie with Bucky. Old Steve Rogers should have went to Bucky and say, hey, Sam is really having trouble getting into it. He needs your help. He needs your coaching. And Bucky should have been like his Obi-Wan Kenobi because he's so much older. He's not like a buddy. He's like maybe not a father figure, but like an older uncle or something like that, And then you shouldn't have had U.S. Agent. I love that character in the comics in the 80s, but he has to be like the opposite sort of like political feel to Sam Wilson. So you need to have Sam Wilson discover like I can still embody the values of Captain America while living in the 2020s and not having superpowers and not being Steve Rogers. If he had done that, if we had seen him work to it, they had like a 2-minute montage where he learns how to throw the shield like Cap. Like that should have gone through the whole series.
Yeah, those kind of things are wholesome. Those are things that you want to see out of the character. Like one of the biggest reasons why I just despise Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is they disregarded the perfect setup of Judy Greer's character. Judy Greer's character goes from a lady that hates her deadbeat dad because he goes to jail and he's not in the kid's life. And then in the second movie, she starts to like him more because he's fixing his life and he's getting better. Then in the third movie, they don't even give you the payoff when he's the hero that everyone likes. Yep. Why? That's just stupid. All throughout, and so said, well, she's not that important of a character. She is very important because he was the person he wanted to prove that he could be their first kid. She obviously was very important to how his growth of the character went. And then in the third movie, they just completely shaft her and don't even give that payoff. And it's just all that payoff you waited to see where she's going to acknowledge him as the man that he was supposed to be. Nope, just not there. Another character they treat shit in that movie is Wasp. Wasp was always just kind of been an afterthought. People think Falcon was an afterthought in these movies. No, Wasp was an afterthought in a lot of these movies. Why was Hope Van Dyne in these movies? She did like nothing in any of them. She wasn't really a factor in any of the molesting. Consider Ant-Man 2, kind of maybe, but you could have also kind of worked out with just maybe her dad. You know, I think that's the problem too. Is like some of these movies don't even justify a reason for the other character to exist. Like Wasp is another one. Freaking hell. Like Bucky appearing in this movie. Like Bucky makes a cameo in this movie. If people don't know, why wasn't he just there to begin with? Why do we need the Mexican taco quesadilla flipping Matt Falcon? Why do we need that guy? So. Now we're just getting worse versions of the character that we already didn't want to transition.
Yeah, I think they were trying to make a parallel between, Steve felt so bad and guilty for years when Bucky got lost that, I think that's what they were trying to go for with Sam Wilson, except, I can't even remember the guy's name. But, he gets injured. Not even dead. He didn't even get a full Don Cheadle treatment where he says he's paralyzed or something. So, like, there's really no emotional stakes for Sam.
Oh, another reason why people don't understand his version of Captain America, even though they can probably make that work. To make it work, first of all, he would have to be a super soldier. Like, a lot of people don't even get this. The reason why some of the more popular versions of popular characters work is because there's still attributes of them, the one you like. So we'll just use a lot of people say it's Wally West. Well, Wally West still is a speedster. He just has a different way his story was written. You could use someone like Miles Morales. Well, Miles Morales is not really liked. I think he's only just like for movies, but he's still able to do Spider-Man related things. So he still has that like superhero-ness to him. If he doesn't take the super soldier serum, it's like, well, you're not Captain America and you're not powered. How do you make that work? People say, well, you make it work for Nightwing. That's different. It's different because Nightwing typically isn't going up against like super powered beings, most likely. There's ways to make that kind of thing work. They're just very bad at creativity. You can make it work. It's just not with this current landscape. And keep in mind, this isn't a character that was even liked in the comics anyway. Like Sam Wilson, Captain America, people don't know, wasn't a liked idea. No one's been able to do it. That's not a good thing, actually.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the problem. Is it seems like every time Marvel goes back to the well, they pick like these new characters that have been around since. Well, some have been around a little while longer, but they're basically from 2014 on. That no one has liked, that have had plunging sales and canceled series after canceled series. It's like go back in the archives, get some other people.
Well, the thing is, I know comics to movies don't really translate at all, or if not ever. But if the comic book audience doesn't even like the idea, and that's a very niche, peaked out audience already. Why in the world would the general movie public like it? Kevin Feige is also the one that made the MCU look like this. Perlmutter was the one that really told him all his ideas were really stupid because he wasn't getting on his knees and gobbling on his fat cock. He didn't do what they do. They moved him out of it. He came out 2020, early 2024 when that Bo DeMayo X-Men stuff popped off, and he was like, "Why do I got to go see a movie full of black people or wokeness and all that stuff?" He was saying, and I was like, no wonder why Kevin Feige got rid of that guy. He made sure that Bob Iger was like, "You need to leave," because Bob Chapek was the guy. Not Bob Chapek. Fucking hell. Ike Perlmutter was the guy who was like, "No, doing female superhero movies is stupid." He's right. Most female superhero movies suck complete ass. Yeah, and you could argue that creative team, but let's be honest here, most of them are bad. So justifying putting money into them to make one is a bad idea. And you could say like Captain Marvel worked, but that was kind of like luck. That doesn't really count because we know it was luck because the sequel came out and no one cared for it. So it's like, Perlmutter was a very smart person. I just think he's one of those old guys where he just says what's on his mind without any actual filter. That I think he told Kevin Feige he didn't want I forgot what was it? No female-led superhero movies. He said something about no one's gonna go see a black superhero. What's crazy is Kevin Feige didn't do a black only led super movie until 2018. He obviously didn't think it was going to be a lucrative adventure for him. He also did Blade. Keep in mind, he did Black Panther. Okay, cool. That was a big success. Wakanda Forever probably debatably broke even at the box office. Didn't probably make profit for the studio. Why is Kevin Feige not able to do Blade? Blade's gone through literally hell and back and still not out currently. You know, no one challenges this guy like Ike Perlmutter did. You know, Ike Perlmutter had some bad ideas too, like Inhumans. What's wrong with you? Yeah, he had some stupid ideas, but when you have no one that is able to challenge a person and just lets them do whatever they want, this is what the MCU looks like. Kevin Feige talked about replacing characters before Endgame even came out, around Infinity War. You know, he wanted it to look this way. Now he's like, well, now we got to change. No shit, you're the one who made it look like this. You fucking idiot. He said, we got to reduce the volume of content coming out. You're the one who made this. This is all his ideas. He's the guy that runs everything. He reports to Bob Iger. He's the guy that tells Bob Iger everything he's going to do. He made it MCU look like this. It's all his fault, you know?
Yeah, you know, hey, when things were going well, he got all the credit. You know, now you got to take all the blame. So I'm curious, what do you think about that's an ad for Thor. I don't know why. But for Fantastic Four. Oh, stupid ads, man.
I love ads.
All right, there we go.
You like Geico can give you 50% on car insurance?
But so this is one thing I'm wondering. So it seems like now they're going back a bit further in the well. Fantastic Four used to be kind of the face of Marvel, but it hasn't really been since probably the 70s. Even in the 80s, things were shifting, and they kind of went from like A list to B or C tier. Do you think? Well, A, do you think this looks like it might be good? And B, do you think this is the way for Marvel to go? Is like find older properties that they haven't done or have not been done well, that you can bring them into the MCU to sort of replace some of the Avengers?
That's the thing, is Fantastic Four is an interesting group to do it with. The problem here is it's like, do you have faith that they're going to be able to make a good Fantastic Four movie? Because every Fantastic Four movie, in my opinion, has pretty much stunk complete balls. And keep in mind, this is a group of characters I don't know that much about comic-wise, but I know enough about them just as a whole, right? But the only Fantastic Four runs that people talk about outside of the original runs in 70s and 80s, like Jonathan Hickman's run and Mark Waid's run, usually get a lot of credit. Well, the thing is, what sucks about, I don't even think this is going to be that bad. I didn't hate the trailer. That's crazy because I didn't hate the trailer of Brave New World either, and that kind of went that way. This came out honestly better than I thought it was going to be for as a trailer. The issue is the whole Norrin Rad thing, where they're not going to have Silver Surfer. They're going to have Silver Surfer. And it's like, that's going to be people's first ever maybe looking at these characters, and then they're going to get the wrong Silver Surfer. That's the only issue. From the trailer, I really didn't hate it at all. I thought it was completely fine, honestly. It doesn't really inspire me. It's going to be a bad movie, but it's going to be one of those, okay, it's solid, it's good enough. I think the MCU has to go back to that, just making solid, okay movies that, don't hurt anybody. They're just good. It's an okay experience. Because I feel like with a movie like this, potentially, if they don't get the chemistry down, because they can barely do chemistry right now with two people. Now they're with four. This one has, like, Fantastic Four is chemistry. Reed Richards and Sue Storm, or chemistry, So if they don't have that, then, well.
But not only that, so apparently RDJ is coming back as Doom. So the question is, like, is that even a wise move? Like, yeah, everybody loved Robert Downey Jr., but if he's in this movie, won't he now overshadow all the heroes to like where we kind of don't care about them as much? And then the second thing is, if you bring him back, doesn't that take away, most of the gravity from losing Iron Man? Like, if
he's
just
a different character this time around. He's not coming back as Iron Man. That's how the loopholes. That's why I said they never should have killed him off. I didn't like the idea of him killing him off. It was a dumb idea. It creatively just, now you write yourself into a hole. Now you have to make some bullshit excuse of why he's back. So he has the potential to have played the best MCU superhero and the best MCU villain. Because if people like him as Iron Man, I have no doubt he's going to knock it out of the park. I think he's going to do a fantastic job as Dr. Doom. The problem with that is, well, I just don't like it. It just screams, the move itself screams desperation, you know? Like it
Yeah.
screams that they had really no other way to reinvigorate life into their franchise that's been kind of basically falling off a cliff since what, the end of 2019, to the
Hmm.
point where now they have to bring back a very familiar face, which is RDJ playing Doctor Doom. It's not even going to be Victor, from what I heard. It's going to be a different variant of Victor.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so the Fantastic Four in their movie, their first one, is going to have Galactus, which is one of their biggest villains, and also another one. One of the biggest villains is Doctor Doom. So, but that one's also in an alternate. They said a different reality. It's not the main 616 universe. There could be some
Yeah.
creative liberties they can play with that, but that's their real issue is the Avengers movies themselves will be good, will make a lot of money because it just says Avengers on it. People are just gonna go watch them just because of that reason alone. But it's like RDJ's only here, and the Russo brothers are only here because of RDJ. RDJ said, "I'm not doing it unless they're doing it." First of all, why were the Russo brothers not ever the first consideration? Keep in mind, for a lot of people, they've directed the best ones. Winter
Yeah.
Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame are a lot of people's favorites. They directed the best ones. Why were they not in consideration? Is absolutely ludicrous. Because anytime interviewers would ask them, like, "Hey, would you come back and do it?" They were like, "Yeah, we'll come back in a heartbeat. We have no problems with coming back." Kevin Feige, what is wrong with that guy? They weren't even in his mind. They want to be here. They want to make the movies. Like, nah,
Yep.
we're good. We'll have the guy that directed Shang-Chi do Kang Dynasty. Marvel hires a black guy. He assaults a woman allegedly, and then they have to fire him. Can't see? They pivot their entire franchise toward a black guy, and he did a crime. You can't trust the man. I told you.
It's yeah. Um, I think that's where they're going with the whole Silver Surfer thing too, is because it's an alternate universe, it's going to be different. So then maybe they're going to save Norrin Rad in whatever they're calling the mainstream. I guess they're calling it 616 now, unfortunately. That something's going to happen to the Fantastic Four where they end up in the mainstream universe, and I think at some point the X-Men are going to end up in the mainstream universe, and that's when maybe they'll kind of have to switch Norrin Rad over to a male and maybe get the X-Men back on track.
Because
But
that's been their big MO. That's the only movie they talked about after Secret Wars is X-Men. Because we know X-Men is going to be their next thing that they're going to be tackling. Because after Secret Wars, they've announced no new shows or movies
yep,
after Secret Wars. So their next 2028 and beyond is probably going to be good lord, they're going to call that the Mutant Saga. I can call it right now. It's going to be, you heard it here, folks, right now. They're going to call it the Mutant Saga. Calling it right now. Also, people remember there was a report that came out that said the reason why it took them this long to do it is because apparently they didn't think the Fox deal was going to go through. So Fox extended the contracts of the original people. So they have to wait out all those contracts. They only want to cast the other actors that were previously a part of the X-Men movies, which is weird because they casted Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, who are also part of those older Fox movies. That wasn't those Fox movies' problems with casting. Casting was usually pretty good overall. It's mostly like the rogue casting that really was a lot of people's biggest mistake. Like the one that they think really was a miss ball. A lot of the older castings of the Fox movies were completely fine, honestly. I would just do some of them, honestly, But, I guess they want to just put their own spin on it. Oh, I think the guy that they're going to have write it was the person that, or the director, that one that's been rumored, is the guy that directed Bumblebee. I think his name was Travis Knight.
Oh, yes, I think so.
It's like, he's going to do X-Men? Oh, shit. Travis Knight.
Should be interesting.
Let's see, Travis Knight movies. Oh, no. He directed... Yeah, you're right. Yeah. He directed Bumblebee. Let's see. Oh, my goodness. Links. Work. Oh, freaking hell. He did Kubo and the Strange Things. He's rumored to be doing Masters of the Universe. So...
Well, that sounds pretty cool, actually. I wouldn't mind giving him a chance. I mean, that was the thing, too. Back in the earlier days of the MCU, they were okay with giving smaller directors more or less free reign. It's like as the movies got more popular, that's when things started going wrong. And like they put the strings on them. Like even Ant-Man, they had what's that guy's name? Edgar Wright. He was directing and writing the first Ant-Man, and they booted him like halfway through due
Oh, I
to
remember that.
creative differences.
Happened with
But
Scott Derrickson too. Remember Scott
yeah,
Derrickson, who directed the first Doctor Strange movie, which was good. He left because of creative differences, and they bring back Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi's like coming midway through it's done, and then that's the problem is that these people are getting paid millions of dollars to take the fall because if the
yeah.
movie turns out good, Sam Raimi gets all the credit. Now that it turned out pretty bad, now people just look at him and go, "Were you smoking crack when you were making this movie?" He came in
Uh,
like midway when it was already almost done.
yeah.
Like it's not really even his full creative vision from start to finish. That's the
And,
problem with some of the movies now.
and for me, the worst part of that whole Doctor Strange sequel was you could see so many awesome Sam Raimi parts in there, but they were just like a little bit here, a little bit there. Like it's like, oh, if he had the whole thing, it could have been great. But that's what I mean. They need to get back to it where these different heroes are doing different genres. They've got different directors who want to make their bones, and these directors know a little something something about either action or suspense or whatever the flavor for the movie should be, and then you get all those people together for your Avengers movies. That was the winning formula.
Oh God! And keep in mind, we don't even know who the Avengers are going to be. Doomsday comes out within a year. By this time next year, Doomsday will be out. Well, it's crazy. I don't think that Avengers movie. That one might be the first Avengers movie not to have the level of hype the other ones had. Because who's going to be hyped for Doomsday the same way they were hyped
Yeah,
for Infinity War or even Age of Ultron had a lot of hype going into that one
yeah.
too. Like,
Well, yeah, and I
we don't
mean
even know
that's
the
the problem.
team. Who's on the Avengers? Kamala, Miss Marvel. Oh Lord Jesus. Well, time to go off a bridge. That's it. Let's end it
Yep.
here. Wrap it up, boys.
And that's the big problem is the Infinity Wars were so big because you had all those movies coming before pushing it with that momentum. So you could even get past how much Captain Marvel sucked. It's like, okay, we just got to get through this, and then we'll get to the really good movie. But like, what's the payoff? What's the story? Why do we care? And the answer is, I don't think we do. What do you think about TV wise? TV,
Oh,
when they started,
God, kill me.
uh, they
Shows.
started with WandaVision, which was like kind of a mixed bag. I kind of liked it, but there was a lot of things that didn't work. And then it like quickly went to circle the drain. But we've got Daredevil Born Again, which kind of gives me a little bit of hope. I think from all the Netflix Daredevil fans who really just pounded them, like, why isn't Charlie Cox going to be Daredevil? Why isn't Karen Page and oh my God, I forgot his name. Ben. Oh no, Ben died. Foggy. Why isn't Foggy Nelson back in it?
Also, keep in
You
mind,
know,
they weren't even going to use those characters. Originally, this
yeah,
was this was not only just some bullshit. This was going to be mega garbage. I remember there was all those trades stories came out where essentially he wasn't even going to suit up to like episode 4. There was going to be
yep,
all this bullshit. Kevin Feige went in there and went, "This is just get rid of all that. Start over from scratch." I'm not gonna lie, if he can do that with just that, because he has that much power to go, hey, you got 4 episodes deep with filming and rehearsals and all that bullshit. You need to redo this all. This man has the power to change the whole MCU. Will he do it with the rest of the
yep.
movies, TV shows? Probably not. This was the only show I'm kind of looking forward to. I didn't watch the Netflix one back in the day out of fear that it wasn't going to be connected to the MCU. I was at a different mindset back in the day. I was one of those weirdos. To be fair, I've heard nothing but good things about the show. The thing is, I watched everything up until She-Hulk, and I was like, you know what? I think getting a rope and hanging myself would be more enjoyable than watching any of these shows anymore. She-Hulk got to like episode 6, and I was like, this is just straight up bad. Like, why are we here
Yeah.
with this? And she was like, well, now I want to come back. Yeah, how about no? How about you just kind of stay away and you just go in a corner and cry? Like, She-Hulk was just absolutely terrible. All those shows are bad, and the only one I liked was Falcon and Winter Soldier. I didn't like it because of Falcon or the villains, because those are the worst parts about the show. It was actually the atmosphere around Bucky that I really,
Yeah.
really enjoyed, and John Walker was portrayed by Wyatt Russell. Outside of Falcon and Winter Soldier, I've really enjoyed none of the shows. I mean, what if the first season honestly had some of the best episodes they've ever did? It was like there was like
Mhm.
3 episodes in there that were actually really, really well done. But then the worst ones were like, well, time to Superman myself off a bridge. Like the worst episodes were so bad. I was like, so now they can't do animation, they can't do
Yep.
TV, the MCU can't do movies. I don't know what the comics. Well, that's a joke in and of itself. They haven't been good at comics in forever. Good lord! Anybody read Deadpool, Wolverine, WWE3? I was absolutely just you'll hate your life reading that. But it's like, is this able? I'm pretty sure they said this is rated for mature. That's another good sign too. Is that it's not
Supposedly.
PG-13? Yeah, allegedly.
Well, yeah, I mean that would be the thing is, this. Well, I think it's a mistake to put it all on Disney Plus. They should put some of these out on other platforms so they could be more mature. Just like back in the day, Disney owned like Touchstone and Miramax, I believe. So if they had movies that were like too edgy for the Disney brand, they would go put them over there. And that's kind of what I think, they need to do with some of this stuff because Daredevil should be more mature, and they could have different superheroes that are aimed at that audience, like any street level superhero. Really, there should be a lot of blood and like fighting that's more realistic than rays coming down from space. And that's kind of where I think they sort of went wrong. Is that most of the stuff that they've had on Disney Plus is just so vanilla. It's just not interesting.
It's because it's like essentially movies that are broken up into TV show episodes.
Yeah,
Because the original idea behind it, people don't remember, the original idea behind it was that you could give underrated characters that they
yeah,
couldn't justify movies for series to develop. Then, because back in the day, you'd be like, "Oh, that sounds great." The MCU they had conquered cinemas. They just had Endgame that came out, Far From Home, ended Phase 3 with $1 billion, even though that movie sucks ass too. You know, why would we? Why? Who would judge otherwise? They had already did so much goodwill with the fans. You were already so hyped, and then it got to a point of like, God, these shows are awful. Like, it's not the fact they can't even do one. All of them are just. I tell people this: after it's over, think in your brain, did you need to watch that when it dropped? All of these shows, you think like these must be must-see TV right now.
yep.
No. Literally, I thought to myself, if I didn't watch Secret Invasion, I knew I wasn't missing anything because I could just go
Oh,
binge it and go, okay, well, that sucked ass. Thank God I wasn't watching that week to week. Come on. Some of these episodes back in the day came out with WandaVision. People don't know during like that the certain virus lockdown period, people were staying up to like 3. So if you're on the East Coast and that episode dropped at 12, you're staying up to like potentially if you watch parties with friends and you're talking about it,
yep.
you're staying up to like 5, 6 in the morning. I was staying up to like 2 in the morning watching some of this stuff and just constantly disappointing episodes in all these shows repeatedly. And I would, you know what? I'm done. There's no more. You already burnt me too much. Like, man, Miss Marvel started out not even that bad. Just went to complete shit after like the first episode. Just completely just sprinted that shit to the ground.
I
Oh
just
God. Oh, Moon Knight. Oh Lord. Okay. Oh Lord, what they do to my
I
boys.
man, Moonlight had such potential too. Like
One of the
if
episodes
Moon
was really good. The
yeah,
backstory one was fantastic. Now, if you just remove that episode from the entire show, it's probably pretty good. Then the other 4 exist.
I mean, and like the silly hippo god and like that's the thing. I think if they had like one of the ways that the MCU movies differentiated themselves from a lot of other superhero movies of the time, not counting the Batman series, is that they took themselves a little bit more seriously. Like they could have jokes, but the jokes were never at the expense of the characters or at the expense of the stories. They were, maybe like a little fish out of water type of jokes. And that was about it. Like they need to get back to that where like, okay, it's like a guy who thinks he's possessed by an ancient Egyptian spirit, and maybe he is, maybe he's not. But like you need to take that premise seriously as opposed to making jokes about him. It's the same as like that's the reason I don't like Thor Ragnarok is the ones before. they all took Thor seriously as a character. There were some, jokey situations where he comes to Earth and he's like throwing coffee mugs on the ground and stuff, but they were never laughing at him. They were laughing at the situation that he didn't understand. Whereas, like, by the time you get to Love and Thunder, who wanted to see Fat Thor? What was that?
Also,
Something anybody wanted?
storytelling.
Yeah.
Even in even in Brave New World, their storytelling was because, to be fair, even though another common misconception, people said, "Oh, the villains." MCU has always been known for not having good villains. You can trace that back to like back in the day. Some of the villains were pretty just off and meh, but some of them were okay. They've never had great villains. They've had decent to okay villains most of the time.
Loki was pretty good. I liked Obadiah Stane in the first Iron Man.
Yeah.
They, like in those, and Red Skull wasn't bad in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the second tier ones were not great.
Good gosh. Oh, Red Skull, another character they haven't used in forever. God damn it. What was I talking about? Oh, storytelling. Yeah. So Thor, Love and Thunder. What a horse piece of trash that is. The main point of the movie was Gore. He was like, well, gods are assholes and they don't help anybody. Thor goes to a place of the gods. Gods all prove to Thor that they're assholes. So is the villain wrong for how he feels? Their movies keep constantly having that.
Yep.
All their movies recently basically justify what the villain's doing. And it's like, why? What? It's like you're watching a superhero movie where the plot is justifying why the villain's doing what he's doing, why it's morally right what he's doing, even though it's clearly killing is obviously wrong, even if he was doing it. But it's like everything is like weirdly contradicting each other. The movies are contradicting each other, and the storytelling is all over the place. Eternals, we're told the Ascension has to happen for whatever God knows fucking reason. Then their creator comes back at the end of the movie after the Ascension's over, even though he could have just made it happen when it was going. What is going on here with some of these movies? Someone has to iron out these scripts. Some of this shit is making no sense. You're talking about in Eternals, that's why it's the worst one. It makes no objective sense in any possible capacity why that movie's literally the Ascension has to happen. We're told it's happening. It happens. They stop it. Then the guy comes out and's like, "You stop the Ascension. I'm taking you back." He could have just did that. He could have just not did that when they were stopping. Oh, what in the fucking God? These movies are so ass now. Holy crap, this is bad.
Yep.
Even Deadpool Wolverine, enjoyable movie. It was very enjoyable, but the villain in that pretty bad. She stunk too.
Yeah.
If she was in another MCU movie like Eternal, she would be getting absolutely roasted because she herself was awful. Like that's the problem with their movies. They need to essentially after Secret Wars, as most of this was already done, go back to the drawing board and go, hey, what are we doing in this movie? And making sure that this movie is telling a good story in a confined portion of time when it's released, then another one's going to come out and we're going to keep doing that. Because it feels like now it's like the same producer is writing some of these movies because it's the same recurring problem every single time. In Brave New World, people say, well, that's just Eternals. No, it's just 2 years ago. In this movie, Brave New World, it was justifiably proven why that guy would be mad at Thaddeus Ross.
Yeah,
because he left him somewhere where he told him he would get him out. So is he right in how he should feel? I don't know. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I think Thanos was like a blessing and a curse. He overall was a good villain, and I like that he was somewhat understandable in the sense that he had a clear objective, and he felt like a character who truly believed he was doing the right thing, even though we all knew, like, no, killing half the people in the universe was not a good thing. But then they got confused where they want the villains to be relatable. They don't need to be relatable. They need to be understandable. I need to understand what the villain wants.
The two things. That's the problem. In their movies now, they're conflating relatable with understandable. I can understand where Gore's coming from. I can understand where the leader is coming from. But it should never be a point in the plot where what they're doing is morally justifiably right. You know?
Right.
And that's the problem with their movies recently. All the plots have been kind of like morally justifying why these guys are as bad as they are. And it's like, what in the world's wrong with you guys? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just the movies. Even going back to WandaVision, she kidnaps like 3,000 people and makes them her meat
Another
puppets.
one right there. That's the biggest one.
And
And then Photon at the end of the
yeah,
show says that they will never understand what you sacrificed for them. Oh yeah, enslaving them. Oh my.
yeah, and the general, the one who they arrested, he was right. He's like, we got to go in there to kill her to save these 3,000 people, and they made him out to be the bad guy. Like, that's crazy.
If people look at all their movies now, for the most part, they always do that. They're
Yeah,
always making the villain out to be this morally justifiable villain, and it's like, no, Wanda clearly went off the deep end and should have been just tasered or tranquilized to death to the point where she's knocked out. She needs to be put into a fucking solitary confinement. No,
yep,
Photon at the end of that show is justifying her enslaving people. We're told for a year.
yep,
And
yep.
she literally said those are her exact words. They'll never know what you sacrifice for them. Oh yeah, mind control. Yeah, what the hell?
So, getting off Marvel just for a second, we've got sort of the other side of things. James Gunn is now running the show over at for DC in their movies. What do you think about the chances for Superman?
I'm not gonna lie, this might confuse a lot of people. Given how much I shit on Marvel, I'm not an MCU fanboy. I promise. I treat both equally. You will see. I hated that Flash movie that came out a few years ago. That movie stunks ass. Superman. Initially, I thought about it over a while, and I was like, James Gunn is probably the perfect candidate to run a universe like this. Look at everything he's done, how much goodwill from the fans he has. I'll say on Twitter, it's a little bit different, but just in general. Because before, people don't know, they've been trying to find a Kevin Feige for DC forever, honestly. They finally landed on that guy. And you have Peter Safran, too. I think he's the perfect guy to run the universe. Now, keep in mind, he's also made good superhero movies that a lot of people really enjoy. I think Guardians 2 is not as good as Guardians 1, but I like Peacemaker, and I like the Suicide Squad movie he made. A lot of people have to understand, potentially, the way you've seen him do movies before may be different here. I see a lot of people go, well, he can't do that. And when the average person is like dumb as fuck, in those Guardian movies, in Peacemaker and Suicide Squad, there's very clearly serious moments there. There are. People just have such short-term memory, you don't remember an entire movie or most of the good parts about it. He can very clearly do serious moments. But the other half of it is like, well, most of them are comedy related. A lot of them happen to be. So I think with Superman requires a slice of life humor. Superman requires slice of life humor, and it requires every average day-to-day, hey, I bumped into this girl and now I have to say I'm sorry. Oh, let's laugh kind of humor. He has a very dad jokey kind of humor. That's just what Superman is. If James Gunn can nail that, the humor part he already has down with a lot of people is fine. After I read his interview he did with the rap, I actually was like, I think this guy gets it. People go read his interview with the rap, I feel like he really does get Superman. I feel like he's going to do a fantastic job, honestly. The problem that I have with the movie itself is like, people did criticize Zack Snyder for having a bunch of characters introduced early on. He's also doing the same thing. But it just depends on how they're utilized. If they are utilized in a way that benefits the plot and it makes the plot go and get better organically, that's how that will work. To be fair, it's very rare directors can make ensembles work with superheroes. It's very hard to. So I think James Gunn's actually gonna do a pretty good job, honestly. I actually hype for Superman. Unlike some other people, they think it's gonna be like, man, after the trailer dropped, people were like, oh my god, I'm glad they didn't make him a trans she her. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Fucking weirdos.
Well, they were talking about having Idris Elba play Superman at one point. It's like,
oh, they did have Sasha Callow, a lady that was in Days of Our Lives, play Supergirl. I guess literally anything is possible at that point. We have a black female Jesus now. If you didn't hear about that,
what?
Yeah, yeah.
Where's that?
The black lady who was in Wicked got casted to play Jesus. I'm not kidding. In a Broadway, literally came out yesterday. I'm not kidding. Yeah, good job. That's Jesus.
Okay.
lesbian non-binary pronoun weirdo with a knocker in her nose. Great. But no, for Superman, that's my only big problem is I don't know how he's gonna jumble these characters, but then I have to realize he has jumbled groups of people before. Commandos,
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy itself is a group. Suicide Squad is a
Mhm.
group. So be honest here, I think he's gonna do a fantastic job. Honestly, I can't wait to watch it. Honestly, I just don't like the Superman suit that much. It looks pretty meh. It could be like Henry Cavill's suit should
Yeah.
not look better than this suit now without
Yes.
the underwear on. You know, I don't think Henry Cavill's Superman movie was that good at all, but at least the suit looked better. The suit looked fine,
No,
honestly.
I mean, I thought Henry Cavill as Superman was good,
Yeah.
but he never had a good movie. Um, that he really only had the one single movie. And to me, that's kind of what I wish they would do here. Like I'm 50-50 on Gunn directing it. Like I think he's a much better candidate for Superman than Zack Snyder was, because Superman needs to be like I really don't like modern portrayals of Superman. Like my favorite Superman is 1938 Superman. If you ever get a chance to go back and read those are awesome. Those original comics are just amazing compared to what we have now. But because he's like too, they call him the Boy Scout, and it's like too much. He wasn't like that originally. He
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
the
that's a later interpretation of who he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't the goofy guy unless he was around Lois. Like there'd be like gangsters who try to take him out and he'd be like, "Nope." And he'd just like break their guns. But then Lois would be there and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm scared." And like run off. So really Lois was kind of his kryptonite originally. But you do need a lighter tone. Like it's not Batman. The Christopher Nolan Batman movies were generally pretty good, and the tone was correct for the character, which is something that I think was very off with Zack
A lot of the
Snyder.
fans don't get this either, because a lot of DC fans get very mad if like a movie will have humor, and it's like you
Mhm.
do know that these characters have humorous elements to them. I
Yeah, of
think
course.
it was a problem of the Nolan movies where that tone is expected now of every single character. And it's like, no, that doesn't work
Yeah,
for every character. Like Flash, if a good Flash movie ever came out, it would need a more of a lighter tone. Superman
yeah,
needs a balance of both tones. Batman would need a dark tone. Wonder Woman would need a darker tone, like it does have in the first movie, not that
yeah.
whatever that second one is, honestly. And then like that's a problem with DC fans. Some of them are just like they don't know anything, and they keep saying, "Oh, it's from the comic books." People haven't read comics. That's just not true. It's just I don't know why they lie. People just objectively just lie on Twitter just because I've read these books. Who wrote them? Oh, James Gunn. All right, okay. Well, if you don't know who wrote your own favorite stories, you might be a poser. So you say back in the day, if you were faking
Yeah.
something, you were a poser.
And I mean, to me, that's that one of my other big worries is that for sure anybody who takes over the DCEU, they have to be prepping for a universe, right? It's not that we can just have one movie, one good movie, so we get to really know and like a character. And that's what concerns me with Hawk Girl and Guy Gardner and this and that. Like, I didn't hate Black Adam as much as most people did. I really liked Doctor Fate in that movie, but like, who cares about all the other people? They were
Oh
totally
yeah.
superfluous, and that's kind of what I'm afraid is going to happen here. Um, unless it's like if it were like 2 minutes of Superman checking in with the Justice League headquarters, like, yeah, everything good. When you see somebody's face on a screen on FaceTime, yeah, we're good, Superman. Like, okay, and then he has his own story. Like, I'd be okay with that. But like, you can't have too many of these characters in the movie without diluting your main character.
Mhm.
And I wish that they would sort of start like they should have done back in the day and go back to the way Marvel did. A good Superman movie, a good Wonder Woman movie, a good Batman movie, and then you need like a random character, maybe a Green Lantern, hopefully not Aquaman again. Um,
Yeah.
something.
Good gosh, he's gonna be playing Lobo now. Good job. Well, he finally is playing the character that a lot of people thought he already should have been playing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So what else is coming out for DC? No, it's literally just everything kind of hinges on if Superman is a box office hit because they're pretty much placing all their bets on this. I know James Gunn's talked about not. I'm pretty sure there's not going to be any post credit scenes there. because
Yeah.
they don't know where it's going to go. They don't know if this is going to be getting a lot of money. So the movie's budget, from what I heard, is like $200 million. So it would need like 700 to break even. So it would need like about maybe 850 to make profit for the studio, because it's a big blockbuster tentpole. So that means that it's going to have a big marketing budget behind it. If Superman doesn't do well or up to whatever standard they have for it, because they're already talking about putting in production for a Clayface movie. Like, when did DC become Sony? Like, what the hell? We need a Clayface movie. That's interesting, I guess. I mean, it's one of those villains that you can do a movie on, even though that's the joke of the character. He's the whole movie thing about the character.
Yeah.
But you can do a Clayface movie. It's just like, is that needed though? That's the thing. Is like Supergirl. That story's written by Tom King. It's like, oh, crazy.
No.
Yeah, the book where it's based off is actually based off a story from Tom King, Woman of Tomorrow. So it's like, yikes. Good Lord. What are we doing here, James Gunn? Hey, he's got a bunch of really wacky ideas. I really, truly hope they work. I'll be honest here. I think this time around, they're kind of at the point now where DC is in their comic books, where they're like all in. This is essentially where they're now at. They're all in on this. They're doing a big like Summer of Superman event for the comic books coming up in about a few months here. So they really want to make this movie work. It's just, this movie is probably one of the more, this has to be the most hyped superhero movie in a long time, because if it doesn't work, it's kind of like over. You kind of like, this can't work, then what else can, honestly?
Yeah. Do you think the budget is part of the problem? And like, that's kind of what I mean about all these other superheroes in it. Like, if you just made a much smaller movie with a smaller budget, like let's say, you made a movie for 50 million or 70 million dollars, you then don't have to recoup as much at the box office, and you could have a much more intimate film. Like, Superman's got to punch stuff in every movie. That's kind of his thing. But like, how about a little bit more with Clark? He's an investigative reporter. Why don't we have him, like, picks up the glasses, uses his X-ray vision. We see that stuff that doesn't require like blowing up a city. So we get a little better flavor of the character, and do that for, some of these. And then when they all come together for the Justice League or whatever they're going to put it in,
they're going to call it Justice League Unlimited. Watch them call it Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, that's where you go nuts with the budget, because now fans of all these movies want to come see it.
Oh yeah. Because that's another problem too, is the reason why the budgets are as big as they are is because, well, they have to pay high profile talent. And now, since movies are, how do I say this to a lot of people who don't understand this? So since movies are basically at this point now where we literally just don't know if they're going to make profit, or we don't even know if they're going to break even at this point. Most movies come out flop pretty hard now. They have to pay the actors up front, which is how you get them in. The movie's budget is for, obviously, everything used during production. And it's like labor costs have gone through the roof in a lot of these years. You also have, theaters. They're always taking their cut. Like, our theaters take 50%. Then you have to then you have to kind of factor in it's going to be put in overseas territories. All those countries got to get their cut. This movie has to make a lot of money. I was always ragging on BVS for not making the money that it needs to be a profitable venture. People understand about movies. They have to be a profitable venture for the studio. Breaking even, and when people put those headlines out there, when I say breaking even, that's a loss, people. The reason why they say breaking even, and the reason why that I don't disagree with that, is because they are trying to mislead you. When any publication out there goes, well, this movie made $450 million at the box office, and they say, and they'll be like, well, it broke even. That's not good. At no point is breaking even good for conglomerates this big to break even. They did not sacrifice hundreds of millions of dollars for 5 years just to make no money, because breaking even in business terms means you made nothing. You didn't lose anything, but you made nothing, which makes the adventure in it worthless. Because if you didn't get anything out of it, why would you justify a price tag of this? Keep in mind, these people can. Most movies now you hear about flop. Most of them. Which used to be not as common back in the day. Movies are flopping very, very badly now. Like, this got to be hitting like at least $800 million to be a profitable venture for the studio. In this climate, it's very hard to justify. And it's coming out in July with Fantastic Four, we saw earlier, and Jurassic World 7. 7 Jurassic World. Holy fuck, that's where we're at now. Holy crap.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Hollywood. Like, I understand why you would want to put money in a quote unquote proven formula,
Yeah.
because things are so expensive. You want as much guarantee for some kind of return as possible. The problem is, like, there's only so many times you could do this, and they need to sort of get back on like lower budget movies, grindhouse movies, B movies. The only where B movies really exist are those like Hallmark movies. Um, that have damn, there was a black actress I was just looking at, and
Mhm.
she's like in like 50 movies with like a woman who something something, and they're all like Hallmark movies, like a woman whose husband was trying to kill her, or a woman who lost her memory, or a woman who, and they're not, somehow they're not in the same series.
Mhm.
They're all disconnected films, but it's like, those Hallmark movies that they shoot over like a weekend, it feels like I almost want to see more of those coming out of the movie studios. Not necessarily for the superhero ones, but like, we need new franchises, man. We need something
Comedies,
good
you
that's
can't
going
do
to
those
stick.
anymore. Comedy
Yeah.
movies don't drive a box office anymore. They try to do it with the Northman. That was like the whole medieval fantasy movies.
Hmm.
Those don't drive a number anymore. Like, not many genres of franchises draw a crowd
Yeah.
anymore. I mean, horror is the one that's consistently able to do it, but that's only
Yes.
because the budgets are always typically way lower on those
Yeah.
blockbusters than these ones are, you know? Like, Scream can make its money back at the box office. Scream movies are made for like what,
A
$20 million?
nickel or
That's
something.
obviously
Yeah.
a lot of money, but compared to like a $200 million movie, it's much more easier to
Yeah.
get a profit for that than a $200 million movie. I guess you could say bigger risk, higher reward, but it's like that's the issue now is either you make horror movies that are guaranteed to make money for the most part, or you just hope your movie works. Like, I movies also don't even stay in theaters long enough. Like, new movies have been going on streaming services in like the last freaking 3 weeks. Movies
Hmm.
literally will basically come out and go on streaming in like about a month. And it's like, well, what is the incentive there to go to the movie theaters then? The incentive to go to movie theaters to watch it now exclusively here, and then maybe in a month after I've waited, I can have it on streaming or VOD. These movies are coming out literally a month after being in theaters. Why would people want to go to the theaters in general when they know
Yeah.
in a month it'll be there? Now, if you have to wait 2 months or 3 months, that'll get someone thinking, huh, I don't want to be out of the conversation. I want to be in the conversation when it comes to Superman. I want to go to the theaters and watch it. Streaming itself, when it finally started picking up to be where it was going to be a challenge for theaters, we're at that point now. We're at the point where people will literally, given how streaming is, they know it's going to be there now. Now you just wait. Is it
Yeah.
justifiable? Free now, in movie conversations, you have to go, is it justifiably worthwhile to go and pay for this movie in the theater or to wait for it on streaming? That wasn't in the conversation just the last 5 years ago, like 10
Yep.
years ago. Now, bigger content creators that do movie reviews go, hey, if you want to wait for streaming, you can. That's pretty good. That's a different conversation that we have to
That's,
this
yeah.
point. Superman we know is going to be on Max. Probably Superman will probably be in theaters for a while.
Hopefully.
Maybe, hopefully, comes out in July. What, July 12th, I think, 16th, and now the third week of July it comes out. So it's going to be coming out after 4th of July weekend. So
Hmm.
July
That's
releases are usually
unfortunate.
pretty good for movies, and then you have that
Yeah.
August period. So I don't know. We're in a really
I mean,
50-50 landscape here. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, I think part of the question is, how many theaters are still left? The big theaters that have like a billion screens. Also, I don't know if it's still the same way, but it used to be like movie theaters, like the weekend that the movies come out, the production company gets 90 and the theaters get 10% of the cost. But then every week it goes down 10%. So second week it's 80 to the production company, 20% to the theaters. So they love movies that have staying power, because once you get to the fifth week, from then on it's 50-50. So um, if there are still a lot of like gigantous theaters, uh like they were building in the 90s with 20 screens and stuff, it's a good chance. But from what I've noticed, a lot of more modern movie theaters, they are like condensing it down. They want like maybe 10 theaters, but they've got like the Barco loungers, and you can order like fancy hot dogs and stuff to your seats. So I don't know.
Oh, also, the reason why people don't go to the theaters anymore is because it's too expensive. Now, I understand it from
Yeah.
a theater point of view.
Yeah.
They have to make money off the food they sell. I remember there
Yeah.
was that one quote that one movie theater owner gave back at CinemaCon some years ago. If people don't remember, he was like, "We're not in the movie making business; we're in the candy making business." So, pretty
Yeah.
sure if you don't know, that's how movie theaters make their money. I understand why they have to charge those prices. I fully get it. I never really actually ever argue with that. It's the only problem that I ever have with movie theaters. They just start movies on time. People have kids.
Yes.
These movies are coming out on weekdays. Literally, I don't know if you have kids with your wife, but like if you have a kid and there a movie for you is like 10 my time when it's like 7, you go to the theater, that shit's starting like 25 minutes in, and like you're watching
Yeah.
a 2-hour movie, you're there for literally 3 hours. Movies need to start on time. Literally, if a movie says 6 o'clock, the movie should be starting no later than 6:10. That's including ads and trailers.
Yep.
Now they play ads in the movies now. Okay, so that means that what's that like? Trailers are usually 2 minutes long, so that's what 3 trailers and some ads. Movie needs to begin. I think that's the reason why a lot of people haven't been going. Movie theaters literally just taking forever starting movies, and yeah, people are going on school nights. Remember, opening Thursday night for these movies are a school night. That means that if you're going at like the evening showing at 5, that movie doesn't start till 5:30. 2-hour long movie, 2 hours in, like what 8? You're leaving the theater.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
And it's interesting. I think they made one change in recent years that made it worse. So back in the day, there were no assigned seats, right? You just bought a ticket and you got in. So you would have to go like 30, like usually they'll open a theater like 30 minutes before like if it's a 7 o'clock show, they'll have the theater open for you to sit in about 6:30. So you had to go in early to get good seats, which means you sat through all those commercials. But now with assigned seats, right? Like I buy seat G4 or whatever. You can walk in at the last second. That's why they have to start things as late as they do, because they still want to get that ad revenue. But nobody's watching before the movie time. So I really think that change switched to make movies this much later.
Also at the theater, they could do well now. I mean, a lot of them already do the whole beer bar thing, and chicken wings are great at the movie theaters. I think chicken wings are great. I love eating chicken wings in the movie theater. It's awesome. Like the theater experience is good. It's just the timing aspect, because then that's why someone's mood would be affected when you're talking about a movie. Is because if someone goes to a movie and they're sitting there for 2 hours and the movie hasn't started yet, for like a good 20 minutes with all them damn trailers. And it's like, yeah, they're probably not going to be pretty happy that they've been here for like 3 hours watching a movie. Movie's not that good. And then now, movie didn't start on time. It's ridiculous. You go to a job, you have to be there on time. That's just what it is. You're late enough times, you might not have a job, which is what it is. Now, people have used the argument, well, I like when the movie starts later because it gives me time to get to the theater. It's not a bad argument per se. It's just more like if you already have to do this, you want to go and see a movie, then you prep and make sure you're there at the time. Because movies don't exactly start at the right time. Usually 15 minutes for previews. It needs to be 10 minutes. It needs to be nothing more than like 7 minutes sometimes,
5-10 minutes are fine, but more than that is too much.
Got to get that Nicole Kidman ad in there, Please, no, I hate that. We don't even have that one. We have we have a smoking one. It's like, I think I remember it. It's like if you don't like smoking, then don't start. It's like I've seen this ad like a billion times. I hate it. It's the same ad every single time.
Honestly, I haven't been to the theater since last summer. My mom really wanted to see the last Indiana Jones movie, so I took her to see that, and like I don't remember much of anything that happened.
What another blockbuster that came out, flopped so unbelievably bad, and no one's even remembered it existed. That's crazy.
As far as I'm concerned, there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies, and that's how it should be.
Some would say that there's only 3 Star Wars movies too.
Well, if it wasn't for the only good one that they released was Rogue One. I enjoyed that one. That had the right feels. Not quite as good as the original trilogy, but it was the closest of anything that came after it. Well, so tonight on your channel, I believe you have a guest, don't you?
Yes, around 6 o'clock my time, so 30 minutes from now, I will be talking to. Well, what's his name? Holy crap! His name is
Tyler?
Richie Acosta.
Oh, Richie Acosta. Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. Then after that, I have my panel show. Warren won't be there tonight, but I'll have Gray and Cyfax there. We'll probably talk about some topics that I hadn't got a chance to get a chance to really go over, honestly. And that's pretty much it. I've been working on my comic book channel a lot.
It's getting pretty good.
I've been reviewing. Let's see. We reviewed Absolute Batman #1. I'm trying to figure out which book I want to go to next. I'll probably just do Absolute Batman #2 this week coming up. If there's a comic book to review, we'll just review that, and then we'll just do a topic afterwards, because there's quite a bit of comic book news coming out constantly. It reminds me of my Yu-Gi-Oh channel, where the news would just constantly come out, and it's like, oh my god, just sit down, get home, drink something, headset on, microphone, video, edit the video, render it, thumbnail, tags, title, upload it, put it up. Oh my god, literally. I might even go over this other one. Marvel, I shit you not, I'm not making this up. Marvel literally is going to resurrect Gwen Stacy and then make her Gwenpool. Talk about being creatively bankrupt.
Yeah.
Some of their books recently have been pretty hit or miss. More misses, I would say. But why? Who's making these ideas? We're so creatively bankrupt, we have to bring a dead character back. Talk about stakes not mattering anymore.
Yeah. You know? And that was the one that stayed dead, since the 70s.
Good Lord, man. Remember when they tried to kill off Miss Marvel? They announced she's going to die, and they just bring her back with a 4-part miniseries just to make her a mutant now? What in the fucking hell, dude? That's why Marvel is just, holy crap. Like, I'm not one of those people where I would say everything mainstream is bad, but if you do read a bad mainstream book, you will want to Superman yourself off a roof. That shit is awful. I think DC's comics are better, if you're asking me currently. But
yes,
you have the Ultimate Universe. We're gonna review Ultimate Black Panther a little bit over there. Ultimate Spider-Man is really good. I read the first trade. It's actually fantastic. Mm-hmm. Second trade, I'll read that very, very soon. So the Ultimate Universe only has Ultimate Spider-Man in it right now currently. So
yeah, I mean that was one of my big problems with the Ultimates, actually, is why is your alternative universe better than your main universe?
Couldn't you just yeah, that's always been my thing. There's no point in really making an Ultimate Universe. You could just do everything you wanted in the main universe. They just want to spike in sales because you get the new number ones, cover variants, you get a lot of these speculators and everything. It only makes sense from a business point of view why you do an Ultimate Universe. And keep in mind, it's like one benefit for fans. You're not bogged down by all of these different multi-layered years of character stories that you have to read before. Like with Absolute Batman, someone who's never been into Batman could pick that up and read it without any prior knowledge of Batman because that's what it's the beginning of something. So there's only 3 benefits to it, but in reality, it's just a cheap sales gimmick to boost their sales. That's really all it is, honestly.
Yeah. So for anyone who's interested, go check out the Master Swagking. We've got links down in the description here on YouTube. You can find him on Twitter, on Rumble, on YouTube. Videos. I mean, pretty much every day I see you coming out with videos.
Yeah, so pretty much the Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, those are panel shows. Those will always happen by far. Tuesday and Friday, me and Labs Comic Fan do the comic book stuff. Professor Savage, I usually do Tuesday as well. No homo. Mm-hmm. But he has to currently right now he's repairing his PC. So we should be back with him the following week. So you have main panel shows, Labs Comic Fan. I'll try to stream League whenever if my internet freaking hell permits it to be allowed to stream League. Usually it's pretty good, but if not, it looks like hell. The Cloud9 podcast is Sundays and Thursdays, but if I don't have a chance to do the second episode of the week, we'll usually always do one of it. On the shows, we pre-record the videos. I haven't pre-recorded a video in months. I just clip them out of the shows. Easy. We need to make videos. We just make them with friends. Keep in mind, the content where you make it with other people, you get that different perspective there too. I don't mind doing videos by myself. I did video by myself since 2015, but having that second person there can add to the conversation more than you just monologuing toward a webcam.
All right. And for anyone who is watching me, hey, why don't you go to YouTube at Yang Yanjiao 4 and subscribe to the channel, click likes on this video, and I will be back next week. Not quite sure who's coming on, but I believe we'll have at least 2 shows. So thanks for coming by, and hopefully have you back on again before too long.
Yeah, it was great. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Check the replay. People are like, I didn't catch it live. Literally, there's a replay. Literally, don't be an NPC. Don't be that person. Just hit the button. Hit the play button. Good God, man.
And like it when you do.
Yes, do that. Do all the stuff.